This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
All those stars on the ice, just 2 goals were scored, just like we all predicted. Presented by PointsBet Canada. It's a Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with you. What's up, Rosie?
Not too much, my man. Just wondering why they didn't watch 3 hits yesterday and avoid becoming complacent.
We're going to get into the game, and I think we're going to disagree on that front. But first and foremost, Jordan Binnington was at it again last night, Rosie. Even after his head coach said, "Can it, dude? Just play goalie." Here he goes again with Marc-Andre Fleury. And credit Marc-Andre Fleury trying to do the Lord's work, take care of business, and the damn linesman got in the way last night. What was your breakdown of this?
Dude, the guy's out of control. Okay, this is my breakdown of this. If I was playing and he's continually doing that, and the whole league knows, even guys on his own team, his own coach kind of thinks he's a donkey for doing this, and he's getting in there, and you can see at the end of the scrum, he's like kind of free. I would just grab that guy, shed him, spin him around, and just pump his fucking eyes shut and just say, "You want to play the tough guy? There you go. That's what you get. You're a goddamn goalie. Settle down." I can't believe no one's tuned this guy up yet. Fleury would go in there and try, no doubt, but you know how those goalie fights are with all that gear on, unless it's Hextall Potvin and they barely even have gear on. But someone needs to tune that guy up and just knock him down several pegs, because he just flies out there like he's the heavy of the league, man. Like right there, grab him and tune him. Oh, that would feel good. But I don't know how you don't listen to Chief Craig Berube when he tells you to relax. He just keeps going off the deep end, gets shelled that game, and gets a match penalty. Not a great look, but fun for us to watch. All right.
It is, and the best part about that, and I was going back and forth with Blues fans, Wild fans on Twitter last night because I tweeted tired act, because it is a tired act. Like, I'm so tired of talking about this, and it's the most polarizing story right now in the NHL, say the last 24 hours. But this idea that Ryan Hartman skated into Jordan Binnington to cause this whole melee is ludicrous to me. Like, Binnington sticks out his pad for contact. Let's call a spade here. It's not like you'll watch the replay here. It's not like I just can't buy that Hartman went into him trying to hit him, you know?
Oh, he spun right out of his crease and into his lane, and the guy kind of like jumps over his pad and kind of tries to hop out of the way, but it's a big, huge body right in front of him, and he's in the middle of a celly. Like, he just gets touched. He's a hair trigger, man. He gets touched. He wants to go off the deep end. Look at him. And then just a flying blocker. Do you know what? Like, with that big stick and that blunt edge, or that skinny end of that big blunt stick, is just does not feel good. I mean, you can't blocker guys anymore with those big hockey or those big goalie sticks, can you? Like, and that was not just an easy little shot. He came flying in there while 5 guys are celebrating. Yeah. Oh, I would love to grab him and feed him his lunch, man. It would feel so good. I can't believe no one has yet.
Rose, you want a telltale sign? You want a telltale sign of how his teammates feel about it? Zone in on Justin Falk right after Hartman collides with Binnington's pad. He does like the peel around. You know, like we laughed about Mitch Marner doing that like 2 months ago. Watch. He does like, "Oh, I'm going to get you." "No, I'm skating away." Dude, that is a telltale sign that nobody really gave a shit on the St. Louis Blues about that. But man, like, it's getting tired. I know everybody's going back and forth on social media. Good for Binnington. We need that personality in a game. I don't disagree, but back it up. To me, he screams at that guy who's going to hide behind the ref. Every team has that player. We all know it, whether it's Beer League, the National League. He's hiding behind the refs, man. He's like Mr. Big Tough Guy. And when the lights shine down, he just can't do it.
I think, in fairness to him, he's trying to get away from that linesman. Like, man, let the guy go. I mean, Fleury came all the way across, and it was just a 5-4 game at the time. But I guess there's not a lot of time left. Well, it's the second period. Man, that's crazy.
And then he's doing like the Hulk Hogan, like he's firing the crowd up. It's like, dude, you've let like 17 goals in today. Like, I do not understand this whole thing from Binnington, how he's Mr. Macho Man Tough Guy. Like, make a save. You're a goalie. They pay you to make a save.
Was he like that back in their run to the cup and everything? Like, I didn't know him to be this aggressive of a guy, and now he's just like out of the ordinary. Aggressive and everything else. I would love a player. Like, I wish the linesman let him go so they could have a scrap. You know, it'd be a hold on fest with all that gear, most likely. But if some guy just grabbed him when he's doing that and just started feeding him uppies and put him in his place, would be just hilarious. I want that more than anything. But to be honest, I think it's hilarious. I like watching it. It's exciting. It's ridiculous. And it's interesting as hell. Like, why is this guy doing this? What does he get out of it? I wonder.
Just let him dance. Let him dance. And number two, I'd love to know what his teammates truly feel about the situation. Anyways, remember to subscribe, tap that like button, leave us a review wherever you're checking us out. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest in all things Toronto Maple Leafs. At the Leafs Nation 401. We're live right now at the Leafs Nation 401. If you're listening right now via podcast form or watching here on YouTube and haven't subscribed just yet, at the Leafs Nation 401, you'll see our interviews up there, our shorts, our clips, anything you want from this show at the Leafs Nation 401. Thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns, those are coming up in about 20 minutes or so. We'll address them in the PointsBet wrap-up. But coming up in 10 from now, maybe even less than that, Jackie Redmond of the NHL Network, TNT, and WWE, a big-time Leafs fan. But for now, let's get over the boards. Rosie, I won't lie, man. I really, really liked that game, which is weird to say because it was so boring, so bogged down, a 2-1 shootout loss. But I love the boring nature of that game. That's exactly what this team needed. I know they lost the game, but they stuck right there with the defending Stanley Cup champions. What was your take?
I thought it was a boring game. Not just because it was low scoring, but just, you wanted some fireworks, some passion, some stuff to go on. Two big teams going at it. Seemed like they're a little out of gas, and a defensive effort for sure. I feel like the Leafs didn't really capitalize on their chances as much as they could have. The game could have gone the other way for sure. But, it's nice to see the defense. It's nice to see, they keep it to the outside and they're not letting them penetrate. That's good playoff stuff. But with the firepower on your forward side, you gotta try to put something up there against that team. I think it was a winnable game for them. And I mean, the big shining light of the whole evening to me was Ilya Samsonov. He looks poised, man. Like, how you see a guy come down on a rush and the goalie's kind of like tense or hesitant or which way is he going? And then the goalies that are on top of things, like, you watch Boston's game and Tampa's games and stuff, and their goaltenders are just, they're big and they're poised and they're in position and they're not scrambling and they're not worried. You can just see it in their movements. And Ilya looked exactly that way last night. He seemed to be in position in the zone and, turns away almost 97% of the shots his way. You're going to give your team a chance to win every time with that. And he did. And, like I said before, he's my pick to start the playoffs if they started right now.
So let me ask you this question. Should Ilya Samsonov's home record be factored into the decision-making process when trying to figure out who gets the game one nod, assuming the Leafs get home ice advantage here?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything's going to be taken. Why would you have something that's valuable that you don't take into account when making a huge decision? I mean, you're even taking into account the experience level in the playoffs of Matt Murray. I mean, that's going to be a factor. That's a factor with how much you get paid. It's a factor of what your contract looks like. It's your factor of who wants you on your team. It's huge. Some guys get hired, not necessarily goaltenders, but players, just based on their experience factor and what they can bring to the locker room. And it's, you're going to look at that with goaltenders, and with Ilya Samsonov having such a good home record, if they get home ice, of course you're going to look at that, man. And I just think the biggest thing is who's playing right now, who has the highest confidence, who's got their game figured out, who's on top of their stuff right now. At the word go, when you're playing tomorrow, you're going to go with that guy, and you're going to factor in all those different things into your decision making.
I loved how boring that game was. I will not lie on that front. The fact that both teams put on sort of a defensive clinic, especially Colorado, especially all the injuries that team has, and everything that Georgiev's dealing with. I mean, it's always fascinating from that front. The other big story to me was Morgan Rielly, his first goal in 13 games. I thought he had some pep to his step, right? Like, that's been the big story with Morgan Rielly, is the Jets. They've been gone. Is he ready to turn a corner here, Rosie?
I hope so. I mean, he's kind of just been vanilla all year is kind of the word I would use to describe his game. It hasn't been horrendous, but it hasn't been fantastic. I mean, he's a good puck mover and he can get in on some plays and whatnot. He hasn't had any fireworks or anything as far as, his offensive ability, but he can move the puck up and get some assists. And, he got the monkey off his back a little while ago with getting his first goal. And, he stepped in there yesterday and got another one. And like I said yesterday, you want to keep those wheels going and you want to have a train that's just building momentum into the playoffs. And if he's finding his game and starting to look poised, then it's it's going to be a good thing for the team, obviously. We can hear Alex
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Jackie in the background.
Yeah, we can. It's not on air, Rosie. Don't worry about it. It's in the background here. But so 1 goal in 13 games here for Morgan Rielly, and I think that's certainly, Rosie, you know, the big picture story out of this whole thing, right? Because he struggled so much, but defensively and offensively, I thought it looked more like Morgan Rielly last night. A, it's good news because it was Colorado, and B, just in general with this team, they're going nowhere. They're going absolutely nowhere if Morgan Rielly can't find his game, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a big piece, or at least he can be a big piece. He's a high pick. He's a high talent. He's got tons of potential, and he just hasn't quite had his game. Like I said, he's looking kind of vanilla this year. But if he's able to find that confidence and start snapping it around and be a little more poised with the puck, it's only going to benefit this team. It's only going to benefit that blue line. It's only going to benefit the power play. Everything about him finding his game and turning on the Jets at this time of year is just huge for the franchise for sure.
So having said that, as you mentioned, we do have today's guest, and we're going to bring her in right now from the NHL Network, WWE, and TNT. She has like 17 different titles. It's friend of the program, Jackie Redmond. What's up, Jackie?
What's up, guys? Excited to be here. Last time Jay wasn't here, so I'm more excited this time.
I know, well, I missed out on you last time. I was disappointed, but I'm surprised we could fit you in with your schedule. My God, you're like East Coast, West Coast, every different outfit in the world. You're, I bet you barely sleep.
Yeah, I definitely don't have trouble staying busy. That's for sure. I am like planted in Jersey for a few weeks here. I was originally supposed to do the TNT game last night in St. Louis, and when I saw what happened, I was so bummed that I wasn't there to almost see Fleury and Binnington fight. Like, this is gonna be the bout that got away, you know? Like, I will always wonder, like, what would that have been if they had actually thrown hands? Anyways.
It could have been like Patrick Waugh and Osgood, something like that. But we were talking about that off the top of the show. Like, Jordan Binnington, where are you at with this act, with this conversation? Obviously, it's the biggest story today. You're going to talk about it on NHL Network later today as well.
Well, here's the thing. Let me preface this by saying I'm an emotional person. Like, I lead with my emotions. So I understand sort of the way that Jordan Binnington kind of, like, he cares, right? And he's passionate. And I think he channels that energy in maybe not the most productive or conducive way to like helping his team. But I do like understand where it comes from. I know Binnington is in like his villain era and people are fed up with him, and I totally understand why. But I do think at the heart of it is kind of a guy that just hasn't figured out necessarily how to maybe channel his emotions a little bit better. How's that for a politically correct answer? But I wanted to see Marc-Andre Fleury get his hands on him. Are you kidding? I think it would have been great.
I know. I wish that it would have happened too. My only worry is that, yeah, he is in his villain era and Fleury is beloved by just about everybody. What happens if they actually got loose, went at it, and Binghamton tuned him up? It would be such an awful look, and I think it would only launch him into the stratosphere of villainism at this point in time, and someone would have to take care of that down the road. It would only give us something to be excited for again down the road.
The hockey universe would have been devastated to see the flower go down to Jordan Binnington. Like, that would have been like a heart-crushing loss to see him lose to Binnington, because I think he's probably the most like liked guy in the league, I would say. But silver lining to that is like, if Fleury got dinged up a little bit, then the Minnesota Wild would rightfully start Philip Gustafson in game 1 of their series. But I won't go down that road on how I feel about that.
Ooh, I like that spicy take, and that's why we got you on the show. And since you're going down that road, we'll shift the focus to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who is your guy right now, notwithstanding what we saw last night? Obviously, Ilya Samsonov was tremendous. But if you were Sheldon Keefe and company, who are you starting game 1 against Tampa?
Samsonov. And it's not even a hard decision for me. And that's not to disrespect Matt Murray and what he's done in his career. And you know, I've talked to some of the guys at the network, like Mike Rupp, for example, and he's like, well, like, Murray's won a couple cups. Like, he's been in these high pressure situations. Like, there is a tendency for that to come into play when you're making a decision like that. And I think we saw that in Minnesota last year with Cam Talbot and Marc-Andre Fleury. They went with Fleury because he has the pedigree. He's won a cup. He's he's done the damn thing, as they say, and it didn't work out for them. I think in this situation, Samsonov has been more consistent from front to back this season. He's unbelievable at home. I think he's earned it. And mostly, and I said this last year in the Fleury Talbot situation, and I would say it in the Gustafsson Fleury situation as well, is that if you start Samsonov and things don't go well, I think it's easier to pivot from Samsonov to Murray, who has dealt with high pressure, who has been in that situation, who's been around longer, has more experience, than it is to start Murray. Things go wrong, and now you're like, oh, Samsonov, I know you've never won a playoff series, but can you save us? Like, I just think it's about the pivot. And I think when you set yourself up with, the guy that's earned it, but the guy that's been better, but also the guy that's maybe a little less experienced, if things go well, amazing. If they don't, you're turning to somebody that's not going to be overwhelmed by the position that they're in with the team down 2-0 or 3-1 or whatever it might be. And I think we saw that with the Caps when they won the Cup, right? Like, Braden Holtby didn't start game 1. He finished it, but he didn't start, and he was ready when they needed him.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's easier to go from Samsonov to Murray than Murray to Samsonov. If you start with Murray just because he's got the experience level, it's a tougher look, and then you're putting all the weight of the world on the shoulders of a guy who doesn't have the experience, which is more difficult for sure. And let's not forget about where Murray got his experience from. It was the guy who was unproven, who went into the playoffs and went and got the job done. It's not like it's impossible to happen. You put Samsonov in there, and he's playing the hot hand right now. You'd be crazy not to. Maybe he takes you the distance, and he's your guy going forward, and then you got your reserve tank of a guy with all the experience back there. It makes the most sense to me, especially when Samsonov is playing as well as he is right now.
Yeah, I think too, like, we're kidding ourselves if we think we're not going to see both of these goalies in the playoffs for the Leafs. It's like, if they don't get out of the first round, maybe we'll only see one. But I think if they do get out of the first round, and I feel good about that for the Leafs this year for some reason, then I think we're probably going to end up seeing them both anyways if they plan on going on a long run, because they just are in more of a tandem situation, and they're going to be going up against beasts in the crease if they're going to advance, right? I mean, you've got like Ullmark waiting, Shesterkin probably, maybe a Freddie Anderson who's got his own things to prove. But like, I just think you look at the goalies in the East, and there's a lot of high Sorokin if the Islanders surprise. Like, there's a lot of good goalies the Leafs are going to go up against. And for that reason, I think they're probably going to have to lean on both guys anyways.
You forgot about Goliath, Andrei Vasilevsky, who to me, that has to be the biggest story of this pending series.
I'm just already booking the Leafs into round 2. Don't worry. It's fantasy booking. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's like you work in wrestling or something, and it's not scripted. Your feeling, Jackie, you talked about this feeling. You're manifesting this feeling. Why does this year feel any different for you?
You know, I kind of like hate myself for it, because last year I was uber high on the Leafs. Like, I thought the Leafs were going to beat Tampa last year. I thought they played really well, save for game 4. I said this, I'm not just like, this isn't like me pumping my own tires, but after game 4 where they were in Tampa up 2-1 in the series and they blew it, and I mean blew it, like got blown out. I think that was the game that ended up 7-3 or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, series over, because now it's going to go 7 and Tampa's just done it before. So I thought the Leafs could have beat them last year. I think the Leafs are way better of a team this year than they were last year. So I just feel good about it. And I think Tampa too, I know this is sort of a tired narrative, but this is the 4th year that they're trying to go on a deep run. And I just think over time, with a goalie that plays as much as Andrei Vasilevsky plays, like, I just think there's going to be moments in the series where they just can't find that extra gear. And I think the Leafs are in a position this year to actually take advantage of that, especially with Ryan O'Reilly back in the lineup when they're deeper up front and they have guys that can. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think they're going to be able to pass off better shifts this year in a 7-game series, and over time I think that they're going to be more competitive against Tampa, and they could have beat Tampa last year. So I just think the Leafs are, it's time. Like, they are going to win in the first round. I don't know if they're going to go deep. I don't see them winning a Stanley Cup, but I do think they'll get out of the first round.
Yeah, I agree. That's well said, especially with you know, how
Was I
deep they are
making
this
sense
year.
there? Because I felt like I was rambling.
No,
Jay.
not
I
at
felt
all.
like
I
was
like the way
rambling.
that, like, I think the Leafs are a better team this year than they were last year, and I think Tampa's not as good as they were last year, and we're much deeper,
Yes.
especially on the back end and in goaltending position, which is what has cost us in the past. So all signs point to them getting it done, considering they're a goal away last year. My question is, with you getting to different markets and doing what you do and traveling so much and seeing a lot of different fan bases and interacting with everybody, what's your take on the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base in general and their general attitude towards their team? Do you notice a difference that stands out with them?
I would say, I mean, I think that the Leafs fan base somewhat lives up to its reputation. I think that we are, and I include myself in this, and I have no shame about that. I think that we are a dramatic fan base. I think that we live and die by every single thing that goes right or wrong, no matter how small or big it is. But I think it's because it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, and other fans of other teams hate the Leafs because everyone knows that the Leafs are the most popular team in the NHL, and you can't argue it. Like, they just are. And so I think the fan base does live up, I guess, to their stereotypical reputation, but I see it as a good thing. Like, I would rather have that for my team than a team whose fans don't care or only care when they're winning. Like, the Leafs fan base is so dramatic that every year for the last 6 years, they've been like, I'm done. I'm not watching anymore. And like game one, they're like, what's wrong with Austin Matthews? And I'm like, I thought you weren't. Like, my sister said this to me last year, and I was like, Marcy, settle down. You will be dialed in game one with all your opinions on the Leafs. So I don't want to hear that you're not watching. But I just think it's the most passionate fan base in the league. And as much as it's dramatic and there's been a lot of heartbreak and failure, I just think the fact that the Leafs are still as popular as they are and still selling out and still remain top tier in terms of fans tells you everything that you need to know about the fan base. They're loyal. I mean, come on. This is like a long-term relationship for most people that has just been like betrayal after betrayal. And like, you're still there. Like, I know you're still the one. Like, I know that we're going to reach the mountaintop and I'm going to stick it out with you. So yeah, I think Leafs fans are great. And I think too, like, other fan bases being around, Rangers fans are super passionate. Penguins fans are super passionate. Hurricanes fans are like underrated in terms of their passion for their team. I just think for Leafs fans, we have that history, as complicated as it might be.
Yeah, it's very complicated. Also a very sensitive fan base. I guess I made the mistake a couple months back of tweeting Austin Matthews in a Coyotes jersey, and I got some publicity on social media and some pissed off people, but whatever. Matthew Nye, speaking of which.
Pittsburgh fans are sensitive. They're going to come for me for this, but Pens fans, oh my God. You guys have won so much in the last 20 years. Relax.
What happened?
Relax. You don't talk about us enough. We don't get our flowers. Oh my gosh, you guys, we don't get enough attention. I'm like, the Penguins don't get enough attention. That garbage out of here. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Every fan base can make that excuse, right, Jackie? But you're the best. Appreciate the time. I know you have a very, very busy schedule. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Hey, thanks for having me. And before I go, I wanted to make sure I said this on your actual show. When I first started at the Score, I was like terrified to go to Leafs practice. And the great and worst thing about the Score is that like they'll let anyone do anything. They're just like, oh, you want to go do a story on the Leafs? Good luck, kid. And you're like, wait, like, who's coming with me? And they're like, nobody's coming with you. Just go. Here's a camera guy. Go do it. And I remember going there. It was my first year in sports. And Jay, you were so nice to me and so welcoming. I was like literally just like standing in the room, didn't know what was allowed, what I was like was a child basically, afraid to even move. And you gave me an interview. You were like, what do you need? I was like, you're like, you're new. What do you need? And I talked to you and I'll never forget that. So thank you for being one of the good ones. I wanted to make sure I said that on the show.
I remember those mornings where there's about 50 or 60 media personnel and I can't even get to my stall. So I just stand there and wait around and look around for a friendly face and probably just was waiting to get to my buddy's stall.
There I was in the corner, afraid to be a part of the crowd, like afraid of them. I was afraid of the media. I'm not joking. I was like, I like don't know like where I'm allowed to be, and like I don't want to like piss anyone off. Anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt
Look
you.
at you now, girl.
I know. Look at you now, like a decade later, just killing it.
Hey, same to you guys. I love being on the show, so thanks for having me.
Anytime.
Thanks,
Take care, Jackie.
Bye.
The one and only Jackie Redmond and the good Samaritan Jay Rosehill. How about that? Because I can only wonder what an interview with you would be like back in your playing days.
I told you I'm a nice guy. Jeez. Get in
I
there
haven't
and help
seen that side of you
out,
yet.
hey?
I haven't seen that side of you yet. Nah, that's great. Jackie's the best. I have never seen somebody work as hard as she does. Honestly, she's everywhere. Great to party with her a couple times as well. Saw her at All-Star Weekend in Sunrise. Went out in New York. Great time, and always great of Jackie to make some time for us here on Leafs Morning Take. Getting set as well for a busy weekend. I think we noted the other day, but we'll say it again. We're not doing a show tomorrow, so the next show we do will be on Monday. Back-to-back this week, another one of those. Carolina coming into town to wrap up the 4-game homestand tomorrow night, and the Ottawa Senators visiting the Ottawa Senators, who are about to be sold, I would say, in the next month and a half here.
Yeah, is that going to Ryan Reynolds, or what's the deal? He just sold his mobile company for like 1.3 bill. I imagine he's got a couple shekels burning a hole in that pocket. That'd be neat if he got involved in that.
Yeah, that's the fascinating part to me is like the Ottawa Senators and that point of view and sort of the clout it brings to that organization. That's coming up on Saturday. If you do recall the last time these two teams got together, we were there January 27th. That mockery of a game where Matt Murray is supposed to start. I show up and he's wearing a ball cap on the bench. So I have vivid memory of that game. I know I piled about 72 drinks that night in the alumni box, but I still remember that vividly.
Yeah, maybe you'll get to watch this game instead of taking selfies and putting filters on your pictures all night. Hopefully you'll get a little better sense of what happened on the ice.
It's funny you say that because on Saturday, as I referenced on the show the other day, I was in a suite at Scotiabank Arena for the Leafs and Oilers game. I must have watched about 5 minutes of games. Like I could not care about the game. I cared more about the steak and the drinks. Like there's just too much going on around me. The conversations to be had. Who cares about the actual hockey?
Yeah, when you're in a box, you tend not to watch as much. There's distractions. You're standing up and moving around. Where when you're plunked in a seat,
saw
there's
me
nothing
buzzing
to do
around.
but watch. No, you were buzzing hard. You're buzzing all right.
Oh yeah, I was there where we got Ty Rosehill chatting up Wendell Clark. Like everything was happening that night, man.
He was trying to get some of his cattle out of Saskatchewan. A couple of country boys talking in the box there.
we look around and like next thing you know, like Jay's brother was with us. Next thing you know, we turn around, he's talking to Wendell Clark. I'm like, when did this happen? And then we walk up, like it was a whole ordeal.
Oh yeah, they were talking about Dodge and Chevy diesel trucks, and I was like, oh
ridiculous.
God, it's like he's right at the frickin' back home again. Two beauties though.
Oh man. Yeah, two absolute beauties for sure. Let's take a look at the PointsBet wrap-up now, and the chat's been hot. A lot of fans of Jackie, of course, and Jackie doing great things for WWE. As Sean alluded to, WrestleMania, I believe, is 2-3 weeks away. I'm sure Jackie will be there. Colton writes in, awesome segment with Jackie. Appreciate that. Yeah, some love as well for Renee Paquette, who's also Canadian, works in wrestling as well, and Jackie. And also, you know, some people questioning the time on ice, playing Marner a lot last night. People thinking Morgan Riley looks solid. Like those are my two major takeaways from that shootout loss to Colorado, Rosie. Again, Ilya Samsonov, that's a great story. I thought he was fantastic. 28 saves, his first appearance in 8 days. And the other one was like Morgan Riley. And maybe it's because he watched our little segment the other day about the potential of moving him up front.
Mm-hmm. Potentially, man. What I noticed is during that shootout, I expected more from the shootout out of
no, this is what they do, man. They have the most skilled
weak.
players in the world put a right to their fucking chest, man. That's what they do. That is very Leafs, man. It was so expected. I knew they were not winning that game.
Austin comes in from the right side, does a little stick handle, and then just goes to the far side that's not even open, and then loses the puck off his heel. It's like, dude, you had all the time in the world and the best hands I've ever seen. I could throw out a better shootout move than that, and I got nothing to work with. He does that shit in a phone booth with guys all over him, and he can pull stuff off. It's a lot better than that.
This guy is a top 5 shot in the league. Shoot the puck. Shoot the puck.
Yeah.
Like these guys make it they make it too complex than it needs to be. Maybe it's a skills competition. Maybe it's the crowd. Let's do this. Let's do that. The Michigan's a story. The between the like, just keep it simple. Like you're Austin Matthews, and there's maybe like one goalie in this league who can routinely stop you, and his name is Andrei Vasilevsky. Just shoot the puck. Like that guy's got a missile. Like guys are so, and this is in any league, you know, wherever you play. Like you over amplify it. Over stick handle. Marner always skates right into the goalie with his dekes. Same way with Nylander. Like I think just use your skill set. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, he tried to TJ Oshie it a little bit, went too far, and then Austin Matthews looks a little lackadaisical in his play. I mean, it's easy for us to say, but when they go in half-hearted and just do one little shoulder drop and bury, it looks disgusting. Like, oh my God, he's too good for this league. But when it doesn't work, it's like, what was that? You know, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. But would have been nice if that skill set could have put together, you know, a little better something in the shootout. But hell, it's 1 point, whatever.
I tell you, you know, I've covered this team the last couple of years. I tell you, Matthews is a fraction second late on everything this year, man. It's just not going his way. Like even that 2-on-1 with John Tavares, 9 out of 10 times he buries that. Again, I watched his 60-goal season in 73 games. Everything he shot went in, and he's had about 5 or 6 of those in the last 3 or 4 games alone that are stopping. You know, the hitting the knob, hitting the chest. Like he's just not getting any puck luck this year. Like it's crazy to me.
Yeah, timing is probably the right word for it. It seems like his timing's a little off. He just kind of hits that spot where it's not quite a hole that's open anymore. He gets in there and loads it up, and it takes a half a second. It was a little bit off when he walked onto the puck, and little things like that. It just seems like he can't quite get that shot off without a stick in the lane, and it's kind of been biting him a little bit. But he's been coming on lately. I think he had 3-3 before last night, and had a chance, and he's starting to roll, and him and Riley, things are starting to click, and you throw Ryan O'Reilly back in the mix here. Hopefully he can get 3, 4, 5 games in before that date, and we'll see if this train can start rolling because they need to do it against Tampa.
I don't know if you saw this tweet just before we came on air, but it was courtesy, I believe, somebody who covers the Islanders or somebody Long Island based. It is an absolute shame Pierre Engvall was toiling away in Toronto for so many years. He's finally unleashed, and it's quite something. The dude had a multi-point effort yesterday, Rosie. I watched that game. Him and Sandin just going to Rip City. They're out of the big market. They don't got to deal with fucking media members anymore. Look at Sandin's. It's hilarious to me. Sandin was a -3 last night, producer Alex. I know producer Alex trying to cause a storm here and talk about Rasmus Sandin. He was a -3 last night in a game that mattered the most against the Buffalo Sabres. I know Washington won that game, but remember that.
There is something to be said, man. When guys leave this market, they flourish, and guys flourish before they come to this market, and then it becomes difficult. And I've said since day one of this show, man, it is hard to play in Toronto. Call it psychosomatic or a mental block or whatever the hell you want to call it. It's difficult to produce in the big smoke.
It is, but we know Pierre Engvall is going to be a 40-goal scorer in the NHL in, say, the next 3 years. You can go to the bank with that, Rosie. But we'll leave it at that. Again, no show tomorrow, so a lot to recap coming up on Monday, and you won't be here. So we'll have 3 hits with Rosie. Coming off a busy weekend for both of us. Also, the game on Friday, the game on Saturday. We'll set up another busy slate for the Leafs next week as well, because, again, we're inching closer and closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Next time we get together, I believe there'll be, 13 games remaining in the regular season, which is great to see because I'm so tired of these regular season games. So excellent job today, Rosie.
Right on, man. Yeah, we'll take an extended weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.
So that's the one and only Jay Rosehill. Many thanks to producer Alex and also our feature presentation, the one and only, the lovely Jackie Redmond, for dropping by. I'm Nick Alberga. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and take care. Have a good weekend.